Okay, let's get into this week's watch list video. We got a couple names long, couple names short. Nothing too crazy looking this week after the market outlook is kind of gloom, but let's get right into it. Let's start with some of the long setups here. We got REMD. Made a big move off the lows, now consolidating and building these higher lows. Ideally, we can get tight one more day and then break out would be a decent setup. It would be more of an hourly setup. You can see like one more tight day would be perfect, and then a breakout. But in these high ADR names, you don't always get the tightness that you really want, and it has a room to the 200 day. So ideally, that would be my target or something like. It really depends. It depends on the market as well. But these small cap kind of biotech medical device names that have been previous big movers, I've seen in this past couple of weeks, a couple of them have made decent moves. Next, we have GLYC, another biotech small cap name. Big move up the lows, consolidating. Kind of had a failed breakout here. If this flag can tighten up here, fill out these next 3-4 days, trade above the 10 and 20, a simple moving average, and then break out, would be willing to take this long. Has quite a bit of room to the upside as well. Maybe $4, something like that. MGNX is another one I'm watching. Like the others, I'd like to see this tighten up as well. Might not be a setup for this week, depending on what happens, but if this can get into a tight range and then break out over this flag, decent setup as well. Made a nice move off the lows. CGTX, kind of in a tight range here, would be something like an hourly setup as well. Maybe one more day of tightness before breaking out, but the 20 has caught up. It's trading right at the 10, is acting as a resistance at the moment. So if it breaks over, maybe this stays high, could be a decent entry on the stock. But yeah, you have to lower your expectations a bit in this market as well. This did have a big move here, but the stock is kind of thin. Ideally, you'd like to see some volume come into it on the breakout, and then we can give you a little more confidence to hold on to it or sell some depending on what happens. CLRO building this little hourly flag as well in a pretty tight range, super thin on volume on this pullback. I don't know what happened after these monster volume candles, but super thin on the pullback. Ideally, if this breaks out, I'd like to see it on nice volume for me to be convinced that it can make a move higher. But another day or two would be perfect for this to break out. But it is an hourly setup on a high ADR name, so you might not get the tightness you want. Target would be something like 250, something like that. I'm not looking for this to go parabolic necessarily, but I definitely would be trimming into a move up to 250. RXDX is a better looking name. Had a gap up on news going into stage 3 trials and had good results from stage 2. But now it's kind of putting in these tight days here. Maybe one more tight day, or could break out even on Monday. Would be looking to trim this up to previous highs or into 120, and maybe keeping a small portion as a swing as well. It's a recent IPO. It has the makings of a big move. It's just that the market conditions aren't super conducive to this kind of trade right now. SMMT, another name that's kind of flagging here. It's a bit loose at the moment. These are huge candles. It's right now 27.5 ADR stock. Like I said, when the ADR is this high, you're never gonna get the tightness that you really want, or you could, but those are like 5-star setups. This is, again, an hourly setup that's fairly tight on the hourly range. It's building these higher lows, which I love to see on these kind of setups. And maybe one more day, exactly like Friday, and then breaks out would be perfect. This has it's had some huge volume days, so there's some momentum in the stock. 500% move off the lows, previous big runner. It has some of the makings of a stock that can easily double in a day or two. This can easily be $6, $6-7 in a day or two. So it's definitely going to be on watch, and we'll see what happens. SYM, not necessarily in the right sector, but it makes some of these big moves as well. 45% off the lows and flagging. I'd like to see this get tight for maybe a day or two more before breaking out. Let the 20 catch up a little bit, find support on the 20, and then break out. It's a decent looking one, not my favorite. It's a bit thin as well. TNGX is a decent looking flag. It made a nice move off the lows. It's been consolidating. Looks good on the weekly as well. I didn't buy it here. Ideally, I think the ideal buy would be over this high, maybe 810, something like that. You want to see it push on volume. It tried to fail, found support, which is a decent sign. It's in the right sector, being biotech. It's a fairly recent IPO, had a big run up, back in 2021. Also has the makings of something that can at least give you a decent, I don't know exactly what I'd be looking for, but it can give you a decent 20-30% move. So it'll be on watch for the week. MOMO, another one that's quite tight after a big move up, about 100%, had some volume in it. Has made some previous decent moves. I wouldn't say it's a huge, it hasn't made like huge moves in the past, but again, it's in more of an hourly setup. We could see follow through here. It's not necessarily the right sector either, so it has some things against it, but I would take it just because there's not much else out there, and it's still, maybe like a 4-star setup as an hourly. If it was in the right sector, it would be a lot better, but it's okay. It can definitely make a good move. You can trim into strength. If there's volume, you can have more conviction to hold it again as well. But yeah, it's worth watching. FTCH is one of these that's just grinding lower. It's 53% lower in like 2 weeks. If this one can gap down, it could have a reversal and fill the gap. That's the kind of trade I'd be looking for. Not really watching it too much for an intraday setup, just because this could just easily continue grinding lower. TMPO, another mean reversion long setup I'll be watching. It's just grinding lower. It had this one big day and now it's 93% lower. This could, gap under $1 and again reverse, take out the opening range highs. I'd look for it on the 5 or the 15-minute chart, take out the opening range highs, and then, can easily see like a 50-60% move in one day, or even more. Just retesting the 10-day is nothing in a stock like this. Only thing is that it's super thin, so I wouldn't trade big size on this, but could have a good intraday setup on this one. SLDP just grinding lower. Also watching this one for a similar type of setup. Maybe has a gap down and it takes out the opening range highs, something along those lines, but not. I'd prefer the other one over this one just because it's been grinding for quite a while now. Okay, the best short setup I'm watching for the week is this PROF. It's 6 days in a row now, 100% up. Decent volume, even though it's thin. It's above average volume on the move up. It's broken over this range, which I was kind of surprised that it broke over here, this previous resistance level. But, maybe if this grinds a little higher or, gaps up and then fails, I'd look to short this. It's not a stock that necessarily gaps up because it's quite thin. But I'd watch this for an intraday setup of, maybe it makes a big move intraday, takes out VWAP and then the lows. I'd probably short it on a break of VWAP, and then if it add under the lows. This could easily have like a $1 or $2 fade, very easily. So I'll be watching this one for a short setup. MOS was another one I've shorted. It broke down of a long range. This one can be, as a swing position. Broke this trend line, broke this little support level here. You could easily get another trade on this if it retests the 10-day and fails. Again, it's going to be slightly market dependent, but because it broke this long range, and I know, the sector is quite weak as well if you look at these other agriculture names. Just getting killed. So I know this leader broke down from its range as well. So I wouldn't be surprised to see something like MOS be a big fader after breaking down from this big range. So all in all, favorite setups would be RXDX, some of the small cap flyers like RMED, GLYC, CLRO, and Momo, I believe. To the long side, and to the short side, I definitely like MOS on a retest of the 10-day, and PROF is what I'm going to be watching for an intraday setup. If you guys like the content, please drop a like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and go check out my website, tradesrus.net, for more mentorship and education opportunities. Thanks for watching. Have a good week trading.